So good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining the M365 Productivity Day 2025. The topic for today's discussion is from code to cognition, how we are going to build semantic kernel. So building an agent with semantic kernel. So there are various approaches where we can build agents using Microsoft Azure, Agent AI services, semantic kernel, AutoGen. Several frameworks has been implemented in place in order to build and develop the agents with different types of technology. So I'm Janarthanan Selvaraj. I'm a Microsoft AI MVP. I'm working in Atos as a AI expert, as well as I'm a technical manager in Atos. And I'm a Microsoft community lead for the Chennai region. And any questions related to agentic AI and generative AI, you can always reach out to my LinkedIn handle. I'll happy to help you in terms of question after this particular discussion also. And for college students, I used to post the internship opportunities as well as the hackathon opportunities on my YouTube handle. So these two are the handles where you can reach out to me. So today's discussion is on the topic about how we are going to build agents with respect to the semantic kernel. Okay. If you look at our agenda, we will discuss about the agentic AI, how the evolution of agents has been happened from chatbot to your fully autonomous agent. We will talk about various components of agents. And with respect to semantic kernel, how we are going to create and develop agents using semantic kernel framework, and followed by the built-in plugins of agents with the terms of different types of persona and prompt template. So this is about our discussion topic areas. The very first one is the agentic AI. The term agentic AI, if you have noticed, it is the generative AI models which has been leveraged to the next greater extent. We call it as agentic AI. So all the generative models which are already present as part of this agentic AI, which is already a part of your generative AI. So on the top of that, we are going to create a model where you will be able to build your agents. So the purpose behind this agent is agent we can create, we can build. Also, it is possible to deploy agents in terms of several approaches. It could be your low code platform or it could be a no code platform. So without coding also it is possible to build agents, and with coding also you can build agents. And these agents, it is able to adapt any type of environment or any type of platform quickly with minimal human intervention. The moment you create the generative AI model, we will be creating a model where it requires a lot of human intervention. But with respect to this agentic AI is concerned, minimal human intervention is required. That is the purpose behind this agentic AI. So under this agentic AI, how it has been evolved, if you have noticed, from chatbot, now it has been evolved till the fully autonomous agents. So with respect to chatbot, what we do earlier stages is, if I want to create a conversational AI chatbot, we will be having some certain FAQs, or else you may be having a policy document, or it could be a user manual, policy manual, employee manual. All the data we use to feed as part of the input, and we will create a conversational AI chatbot using the Azure bot services. So that's how the initial discussion was started before we started creating any agent. So using the Azure bot services, we started creating a conversational AI chatbot. So the drawback is when it comes to the conversational AI chatbot, you can access only the questions, whatever you're being uploaded as part of your knowledge base. So as part of your knowledge base, you are being uploaded. That is one of the fact behind this chatbot. And the second feature with respect to this chatbot, it has been leveraged to the retriever augmented generation. So when it comes to the retriever augmented generation, we will be able to ground our data to the real time context. Okay. So if you use the RAG pattern, the hallucination rate, we will be able to minimize it. That's what compared to your conversational AI chatbot, now the data will be more generative in nature. We are come to your RAG pattern. From the rack pattern, if I want to access most of the user in terms of a companion-based tool where everyday task has been minimized with the help of the Copilot. So Copilot also the responses provided by the Copilot, still you require a human intervention to make the final result as a successful one. From this Copilot, now we fully leveraged all the systems and capabilities to the fully autonomous agent. So if it is a fully autonomous agent, we can extend all the generative AI capabilities on the top of this with minimal human intervention, where we can achieve the autonomy feature. The feature which is called as autonomy. So autonomy is less human intervention, not much intervention. So that is the usage behind from chatbot to the fully autonomous agent. So with respect to this agent, if you've seen that agent, it is one of the microservice where you can feed your data or else where you can ingest your data in any of the form. It's not like only we will be able to feed the document form or you don't whether you're not having any capacity to handle the multi-model data, not like that. All type of data the agent is having a caliber to access it. On the top of this, the agent can take actions and decisions in its own way. We call it as react. The meaning of react is you have to react what type of data you will be uploading. Based upon the data, the agent started thinking in terms of how you can take the decisions wisely in terms of the pattern called as react pattern. So there is a pattern which exists as part of this agent as concern. The name of the pattern, we call it as a react pattern. So react pattern is actually one of the pattern. All these, your agent has a concept called as reasoning and you have to perform based upon the reasoning model. You have to take your decisions or else you have to act on your actions accordingly. That's why the agent communication is more popular compared to the agentic AI platform. Earlier days, we were having the conversational AI. From conversational AI, now we moved to generative AI, and then generative AI, we moved to the agentic AI platform. And in December 2025, from agentic AI, we will be moving to the another platform known as physical AI. So all these AI, there should be a lot of compute and storage we have to invest it. So in terms of this compute and storage, if you have been noticed that all your compute part with respect to your conversational AI, generative AI, agentic AI is on the cloud computing based platform or else you may be using your edge computing based platform. But if you are using the AI, which is your physical AI, it requires the platform for the compute and the storage is the quantum computing phase. So quantum computing phase will be the next trend with respect to this physical AI platform from your agentic AI to the physical AI as concerned. So that's the next trend that we will see in the upcoming month. So this is the Azure AI Foundry. In the Azure AI Foundry, the service which we are going to create and deploy, which is your Azure Agent service. This Azure AI Agent services is one of the service where you can create your agents using code-based development. Also, you can create an agent in terms of your low-code application and no-code application. So there are various options to create an agent. So one of the way to create an agent is using semantic kernel, you can create an agent. Using autogen, you can create an agent. Or if you are using the Copilot Studio, that is also possible to create an agent for the business users. And there is other way to create an agent if you are using the GitHub Copilot in terms of code generation model, where user has a mode called it as agent mode, where we can build the end-to-end application without coding. So we will call that particular approach it as a vibe coding approach. So vibe coding approach that becomes more trend. So as of now, every input or every user ask, we will be majorly focusing on the engineering stuff. We call the engineering stuff as prompt engineering. Okay, so prompt engineering is actual stuff where the entire question or the your user ask, it has been navigated as a prompt engineering. Now this prompt engineering, it is going to become a context engineering. Okay. So according to the Gartner prediction in the recent times, if you have noticed, now the prompt engineers become your context engineers. And now the prompt engineering is becoming the context engineering because whenever you write any prompt, the prompt should have a minimal context, the clarity, as well as your constraint. We call it as 3Cs framework. Every prompt should have a clarity and every prompt should have proper context. Since the prompt response generation is taken care in terms of token limit generation, we have to consider about the constraint aspect. So according to this Gartner's prediction, what is the actual conclusion it is? So as of now, the entire global users were matured in terms of handling the prompt engineering. Now the entire globe needs the usage of context engineering. So over a period of time, what will happen? This prompt engineering will be vanished and most of the engineering, we call it as context engineering. And there are almost several roles has been several opportunities and roles has been created about your context based engineering. So one of the context based engineering role, we call it as context engineers. Their context engineers should have a creative thinking as well as your business domain and technical domain with respect to the functional area is required. We don't want any more general prompt engineers. We want context-based engineers, whatever the business line, if they are currently working, which we call it as context-based engineering. So context-based engineering will become the trend in the upcoming months, and this is going to be replacing your prompt engineering in some days' time. So why am we emphasizing the context engineering? Because we are going to create an agent with respect to a semantic kernel. So instead of I usually provide a prompt, I'm going to have a prompt which is context oriented. That is the purpose of creating a Azure AI agent services. So this is a service we were talking about. The Azure AI agent services we can create using your Azure Portal Foundry, or you can create a agent services in terms of semantic kernel, autogen framework. If you are a M365 user, there is an agent we call it as declarative agent. So using declarative agent, we can create agent services, or even if it is your Visual Studio Code, we have a Visual Studio Toolkit agent. So there it requires a less number of coding involved. So various ways nowadays we have a possibilities to create an agent. So there are three important components if you take any agent consideration. One of the component we name it as your model catalog. You have to deploy a model. Okay, the model could be not only Azure OpenAI. The model can be almost 95 plus models are there in the model catalog as of now. If you notice the model catalog evolution, earlier times it was like 180, 1200 plus models has been available. Now, after the build event, what happened is all the models nowadays it has been categorized based upon the vendor specific interventions. So if they categorize as vendor specific interventions, it can be classified as Mistral, Pi model, Llama model, your codex model, they have been classified. So that's there in the model catalog. If you want any agent creation, you need to deploy one model. So after the model has been deployed, take the API key as well as the endpoint from the Foundry service. So once that is done, you can use either the tool option. Okay, so nowadays, what is the famous protocol in order to communicate any type of external tools? There may be a different types of protocol approaches we will be using. So one of the famous protocol and which has been accepted by most of the organization, it is the MCP protocol. So MCP protocol, you can make use of it, or you may be using the protocol known as A to A protocol, which is your agent to agent communication. And there is one more protocol from the IBM is also there. IBM Foundation is also come across with the protocol, that model communication protocol. So this is model context protocol from the cloud Sonnet AI, where the entire agent communication will be happening in terms of connecting the external resources. And A2A is especially from the Google-based vendor, where we will be talking about agent to agent, how the interaction will be happened. So all these tools will become one of the primary component for your agent creation as well as your deployment. And in terms of security as concern, it has having a passwordless authentications mechanism is by default, it is inbuilt. And also the red teaming feature is there in your agents. So no need to worry about in terms of security aspect. So other than that, how usually agent will works, okay? So in terms of this agent communication, whenever you create an agent, so this is going to be executed as part of a thread. If I say thread, so every agent, the moment you ask questions, it will be creating as a thread-based approach, and you will be getting the results in either in the Foundry application or in the code-based application. So if the run status has completed, which means the thread is executed successfully. If it is failed, you need to identify the traces. When I say identifying the traces, now Microsoft has having in the Foundry application, there is one of the option called it as trace option. Still, the trace option is in preview. Okay, the trace option is still in the preview mode. If you want to trace your application, the best aspect you can use the application call it as Langsmith. There is a framework called it as Langsmith. In the Langsmith, you just provide your project name, URL and endpoint of your application, where you can trace your entire application in which particular step the particular line of execution got failed, which is Langsmith framework, which is ideally used for tracing purpose. Okay. And every agents nowadays, whether it is a stateful agent or a stateless agent, it is going to maintain a state information. The most popular framework for all state information is LangGraph. So what will happen is over a period of time, your LangGraph, Langsmith, these two are already a part of which framework in the sense, your LangChain framework. So creation of LangChain under LangChain only for tracing purpose, we will be using Langsmith, and for your state management, we will be using LangGraph. So these communication, if you want to use it inside your agent creation, that is possible through the framework called as semantic kernel. So semantic kernel only we are going to discuss as part of our execution. So these are the ways where we will be creating an agent creation. As I told earlier, you can create an agent through Foundry, you can create an agent through AutoGen, or it could be a semantic kernel. Why semantic kernel? It is more popular because semantic kernel, your production ready agents, you will be able to create all types of production ready agent. If I want to create it, then use your semantic kernel application. So semantic kernel application is the best one for that. So before I move on to the next agenda, any questions till now? Any questions? Hello. Any questions or any reactions?
No, I
There
don't
is a
see any
question.
questions.
There's one
Yeah,
question, I
there's
think.
one question. Yeah.
Okay. So Langsmith, Langgraph, Langchain. Okay. So whenever any type of agent creation, if you're taken, there is an option we call it as LangChain is the overall framework. Okay. LangChain is actual framework. Under the LangChain framework only, there are two more subcomponents. We call it as Langsmith, and the other one is called as Langgraph. So using the conversational AI agent, if you want to maintain any state information, we will be using the Lang graph framework. So Lang graph framework is typically based upon the graph database, like a graph database, like vertices and edges concept. So that will be in your Lang graph. And every agent communication, if you want to execute it in a thread fashion, sometimes your code may be failed. Okay, your code may be failed. In that case, we will be using the Lang Smith framework. So Lang Smith and the Lang graph. These two are the actual components present from which communication or which model it is, your Lang chain model. So Lang chain model is actual one we will be using for this. I hope I answered your question. Are vector databases and Lang. Okay. So vector databases is one of the database which is used for your Lang graph, Langsmith. So there are Pinecone DB. There are several vendors are there. Okay. Based upon the vendors, we will be using that. Okay. So which is suited for your application, we have to check it around. Okay. So I will take your question after the session if you have questions. So coming back to our semantic kernel, as I mentioned earlier, semantic kernel is one of the framework where you will be using your endpoint and API key as well as the model from the Foundry application. Okay. So that is the purpose of using semantic kernel. And one of the best approach of semantic kernel is there is one more framework in the Microsoft platform called as AutoGen. So AutoGen is also used to create a multi-agent communication. For multi-agent communication, sometimes what will happen is the AutoGen is used only for the ideation purpose, not for the production ready application. So any experimentation, ideation, if you want, you can go for AutoGen. But if you want exactly your production ready application, use semantic kernel. So semantic kernel supported languages Python, Java, .NET. So these three are the languages predominantly your semantic kernel is supporting. With respect to endpoint as concerned, Hugging Face endpoint you can use the endpoint called as OpenAI. You can use one more endpoint called as Azure OpenAI. So Azure OpenAI will be chargeable, OpenAI will be chargeable, Hugging Face will be chargeable. So what most of the people will have a problem when handling this type of agent communication. I will tell you the problem. The problem is everyone you are interested to explore this type of application, but you will be stuck in terms of the endpoint and the key, or sometimes you may not have the subscription For those people, no, don't worry about that. There is one of the open source platform called as Croc platform. So this Croc platform, what you can do that, you just create a account and you have an endpoint and a API key. Use this endpoint and API key in any one of the semantic kernel application, or if it is a LangChain or Langsmith, so you can use it. It is not compulsion. Always you should have the Azure OpenAI key. It's not like that. And even your Langsmith is one of the best application where you can trace the entire code, whether where the code is actually went wrong. So Langsmith is again an open source software to get this one. So use Langsmith also. So you can trace in which particular option you got the error. So use the Croc chat model and use that Croc chat model inside the Langsmith or LangGraph to build your agents. So it is not compulsion. Always you should use the Azure OpenAI endpoint. You can use any one of the endpoint. All these endpoints are now supported in the catalog called as model catalog. The model catalog, it is supported. So this is the architecture behind the semantic kernel. So models will be using anyhow the model catalog, almost 170 plus models are there. We can make use of it. And connector wise, you can use any one of the connector. It could be Azure OpenAI, OpenAI, Hugging Face, or Croc. And plugin meaning it is a function where you will be able to execute the kernel information. Any kernel information, if I want to execute, then use your plugin option, and the triggers and actions, you will be getting the responses. So what are the prerequisites you required in order to create a semantic kernel application? If you are Azure based subscription, use Azure subscription, one model in Azure OpenAI, and it could be GPT-4 or any model. And if you are using an open source model, use OpenAI or else Croc. Take the Croc or OpenAI key and endpoint. And there you can use the chat model if you are using open source. Okay. And which language I'll be preferring for the semantic kernel is I'll be preferring more on the .NET because .NET will have extensive collection of varieties with respect to semantic kernel. You have to add the package semantic kernel package and semantic kernel core package. So these two prerequisites you require. So for this, you need a Visual Studio Code as well as you require which one is these two packages you need to install inside the .NET Core SDK 8.0. 8.0 it is a stabilized version. Download that. So we are going to take three important parameters from the code. One is the deployment model name, endpoint, API key. So these three parameters we are going to take. So you can use either Azure OpenAI endpoint, or else you can use OpenAI endpoint, or else Hugging Face endpoint. So here I used Azure OpenAI endpoint. For that, we are using a method add Azure OpenAI chat completion. If it is your OpenAI, you just write add OpenAI chat completion. So these three parameters are required in order to build which object is builder object. Using the build method, we will be building the kernel object. So let's start our demo discussion, how with respect to demo is going to work. So as of now, whatever the demo which is there in the Azure AI Foundry, the demo is already pre-executed. You just view the input and you can execute it. But in the real time, how you are going to develop an application using the semantic kernel only, developing the applications. So what are the packages I've been installed here is semantic kernel package. I just installed it. So how do you check that is go to your project CS project file. You can check out what are the packages we just installed it. One is Microsoft Semantic Kernel. The other one is Microsoft Semantic Kernel Core Plugin Application. So these two are required. Then just go to the program section. So we have our main method. The main method here, it is a static method. The first one is create builder method. So using the create builder method, we are going to create a builder object. So this builder object, what type of connectivity we are using is Azure OpenAI connectivity we are using. So three parameters you require. One is your deployment name, API key, and endpoint. So these three parameters we passed inside the method name called as add Azure OpenAI chat completion. Afterwards, using the build method, you will be building which object is kernel object we were building it. So the next line of execution of code is using prompt invoke prompt async method. We will be passing our input through context based approach. As I told earlier, I'm not using prompt based approach. So now onwards, you can use inside the semantic kernel. We are going to create any type of agent based upon the context, is not based upon the prompt. So what is the context I provided is we are creating one travel agent. So for the travel agent, what is the context we given here is give me a list of breakfast food with the bread and the cheese. So this particular context we provided to which method is invoke prompt async method, and we are going to execute our agent creation. How do you execute the agent creation is .NET run the name of the program. So where you have a main method, the name of the class you have to put it. So this is going to suggest a list of breakfast foods with the items known as your bread and cheese. Okay. So you might be asking that I can do directly this type of question inside my Microsoft Copilot itself. Why we are specifically we are using semantic kernel. Microsoft Copilot is a companion tool where you will be getting the assistance related to your different functions. But this is your Microsoft semantic kernel where this is going to provide the application where we can deploy in a production ready based application. So all production ready based application, it is possible to build inside the semantic kernel. So you got the options, the classic options, the regional favorites, the sweet and savory, quick and simple. And these are almost 20 options it has been suggested. So one important thing, whoever using the Azure OpenAI endpoint, if you're using it and you're using the model, always remember, have an eye on your token limit consumption. Sometimes may not get these responses. For your POC purpose and all, use your open source framework. After your team has been matured enough in handling these type of prompt execution and the token limit consumption, then you can go with your semantic kernel approach. So this is the initial application. How do you build an agent using the context-based approach called it as invoke prompt async. Using this invoke prompt async, we provided our context and we got the responses. And the second approach we will be using with respect to this semantic kernel one is how to use a built-in plugin. So when I say the built-in plugin, there are various types of plugin options available. When I say various types of plugin options, we are having conversation summary plugin, file IO plugin, HTTP plugin, math plugin, text plugin, time plugin, and avoid plugin. So in terms of your HTTP plugin, whenever you want to make any HTTP request, use HTTP plugin. Any text operation, go for text. Time related operation, time plugin. And you want to wait any function for a specified amount of time, go for await plugin. And any type of summary, you can go for summarization plugin. File related operation, go for file IO plugin. Okay. So initially, if you want to understand what is plugin concept, the meaning of your plugin concept is plugin is actually a function where you can execute any type of code where the kernel is going to run. So any type of kernel you want to run it, we will be using the component known as your kernel, which we call it as your plugin. So any type of plugin you want to execute it, you want to run it, please use the plugin called as built-in plugin. Under the built-in plugin, we may able to use this. Are you getting my point? So I will show two real examples where you can use this plugin. The one of the examples related to plugin, I'll show one which is related to time, the other one which is related to your conversation summary. Okay. So in terms of plugin, remember this one, very important. For plugin, you need the package called as Semantic Kernel Core plugin. So this package, you are supposed to execute it. Okay. So what is a function I have created here is my time is a function where I just created it. And inside this Azure OpenAI endpoint, we passed your deployment name, key, and endpoint. And how to add plugin is using the collection type called it as add from type. Add from type is one of the collection type. You have to pass the time plugin inside this one. Okay. And using this invoke async context based method, we call the time plugin and the time plugin parameter. So now this particular code, if you want to execute, so you just simply used the time plugin as a collection type, and you given the plugin name and which function you want to call it. So we want to call the function as day of the week. So day of the week function, we just called it, right? So for this case, again, go to the main method. So in the main method, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call this time function. In order to call the time function, we will be using the keyword called as await keyword. The keyword we will be calling it as await keyword. And what is the name of the program? The name of the program, it is program 001. That is a class name. So class name I just called it. And what is the function name? The static function name is my time is a static function. So we just use the my time static function. So what I will do now, just go up, .NET, run. So this piece of code which is going to execute which option it is, your time plugin option, it is going to be executed. Let's see this. So the day of the week, which is today, is Saturday. Okay. So Saturday is a day of the week. It is executed inside which plugin it is, your time plugin, it is executed. So similarly, if I want to explore the plugin which are related to conversation related stuff, okay. So what is the agent are we building? It is a travel agent based upon the context-based protocol, which is model context protocol, right? For that, the collection type I have used here is conversation summary plugin. And look at that usage. This we call it as prompt template. Okay, prompt template usually we'll use a symbol @ and the curly braces for the prompt template. So here we are given on condition. What is the condition is? So I am a vegan. I search in search of new recipes. I love spicy food. Give me a list of breakfast recipes that are vegan friendly. So here you are given one conversation. So conversation based context we provided. So based upon the conversation based context, we call the conversation summary plugin. So from this context, what are the topics you want to execute? So the topics around vegan is one of the topic, recipe is one of the topic, spicy food is one of the topic. So all these topics which are related to the conversation based context, if I want to execute it, we will be using conversation summary plugin. So how do you call this conversation summary plugin? You just do await functionality, await the name of the program and the function name. What is the function name is my conversation. So my conversation is the actual function name, right? So .NET run program. So this is going to execute the code in terms of JSON as a result because we are going to get all the topics. So JSON responses, we are going to get this. So topics, so we are having vegan, recipes, spicy food, breakfast. So these are the topics which are related to the conversation based summary. Okay. So this conversation based summary plugin and all more helpful whenever you develop any type of agent inside a semantic kernel framework. And the last two more important elements with respect to this one is prompt template. So how you can provide the prompt template inside the semantic kernel approaches through curly brace expression, we can provide the prompt template. So you can specify in which language you want the code result and how you are going to execute this code result in terms of prompt based template, we can approach it. So prompt-based template is one of the important one in terms of your conversation-based summary plugin or any type of any type of customized code if you want to create it. So please use your conversation-based summary plugin. So conversation-based summary plugin is one of the option where most of them will get their customization in terms of any type of code or any approach you want. You will be using conversation-based summary plugin. So conversation-based summary plugin, your HTTP plugin, file IO plugin. So these are the actual responses with respect to context-based engineering. Any context-based engineering you want to use it, please use this one. So context-based engineering will be the next trend. So compared to your prompt-based engineering. So usually we will use prompt-based engineering or else prompt-based engineering techniques for your code-based approaches, right? So the new trend of the prompt engineering, we call it as context-based engineering. The last two topics, let me explain it. So these are last two piece of code. Let me show the piece of code what I have. One is this one. Opened, yeah. So this is known as your prompt template. So prompt template, how do you define it is at the rate curly braces is one of the expression language for prompt templates, and you have to use dollar curly brace language. So look at this prompt, look at this context. Create a list of helpful phrases, words in this which language. So which language user is provided as in French. Okay. A traveler should find is useful. So once a traveler it is find it is useful in English to French, group the phrases by category and display the phrases in the format. So what is the format I need is hello, this is in English, and we call it is in your French language and the respective pronunciation. So let's execute this code. Again, we will be using the method called as invoke prompt async. So based upon the language expression we provided inside this context, it is going to be executed. So let me call this. So what I will call await the name of the program and the prompt. Okay. So ls.net. So I'm going to Paris next week. I want to know what are the useful phrases in English to French so that I can communicate in my tourist place areas. So that's how we are creating this travel-based agent. So it is now going to provide the responses. Let's see the response. See. So what are responses it is provided? It is provided greetings and basics. Hello, bonjour, goodbye, and thank you, merci beaucoup. So in English and in French. So what I want to go like any accommodation, this is in English and this is in French. And food and dining, these are the helpful phrases. So all types of helpful phrases in terms of different types of persona type we can go for which one is your prompt template. So prompt template will be more useful for this particular purpose. Okay. I think I'm done with my code. Let us take the questions. I'm done with my code. So any questions is there on the chat so that I can answer?
Yes, there is one question from Kiran.
Just a second, I'll open it. What is the question? Yes, correct. So that plugin that you refer can be used that are in MCP tools. So plugins, yes, you can use in the MCP tools. Answer is yes, Kiran. Yes, Kiran. Plugin is in MCP tool only. Any other questions you can ask also. Anything else?
No, I think there are no more questions, so I can stop the recording. And